Here's your host,
Look
the
at me.
Texas tax expert,
Know what
George
you
Dandridge.
feel bad. Paid the coffee bomb. Paid the coffee bomb.
Welcome to Boss Motivation. I hope 2020 has been treating you guys really well. I hope you've been tuning in to Boss Talk Radio. It's really been we've had some exciting guests, and the amount of knowledge and experience that they're dropping on there is just phenomenal. So we're going to do something new. We want to welcome and thank you for tuning in to Boss Motivation. This series is brought to you by Elite 8 Tax and Financial Services. You know, entrepreneurs seem fearless and ambitious, and the commitment and everything motivates so many people, like unknowingly. Like, entrepreneurs never really realize how many people they affect. However, the downside of entrepreneurship, the emotional roller coaster it can take you on, is often unknown by the same people that are motivated by entrepreneurs' energy. So, for you entrepreneurs, when you need to recharge or be fueled and restored, it's important to have the resources around you to keep you going. So, at Boss Motivation, we want to be one of those resources to serve you by delivering you encouraging content that helps you identify the negative self talk and dispel it. The right tools make any job easier, more efficient. The best tools can make those tasks effortless. Let's start with the most important tool in your toolbox, your mind. If you talk to any top athlete across any sport, they will tell you that the importance of conditioning. And conditioning not only improves natural skill sets, it creates a competitive advantage. So, how does one condition the strongest muscle in the body? Just like every other part of the body, by working out. Remember that remember that first workout you had, like how proud you were for doing it and how much it hurt in the days to come after? That moment when the challenge of overcoming the pain to repeat that process was like mentally defeat. It wasn't the soreness that held you back. It wasn't the drive to the gym or any other matter you used to convince yourself not to go back and put yourself back through that process. What held you back was you hadn't developed a strong enough mind to outtalk the negative. Commitment is the elimination of all options. You'll hear me say that often. You'll hear me say that a lot. Commitment is the elimination of all options. There's no other choices to be had once you commit. Les Miles says commitment will show up in your life. However, commitment isn't a simple decision about an end result. And I think that's why a lot of people tend to fail at some of the commitments that they make. They set their eyes on something, they set a destination where they want to go. And that's what they ultimately work on. But the little things in between tend to get, overlooked, whatever. So it's not a simple decision, and I tell you what, let me take you on a journey. We're going to put a bookmark right there. We're going to come back there. So let's talk about one of the most important parts of conditioning. There's a lot of different things that go into it, but one of the most important parts of conditioning is the environment. Environment can be and is most often the largest influence in your success. See, the same thing is true about your failures, though. The environment affects that. I mean, let's do a quick evaluation. Now you can lie to me and anybody else, but it's counterproductive to lie to yourself. So take an honest stock. And at the end of this, if you find that the percentage is off, you should be able to identify the why in this evaluation if you're being honest. If not, you're going to come up with some excuse that you've already decided in your mind is valid, you know. So you ready? Okay. So let's look at the apps on your phone. Now, some of these are for business. Some of these are for entertainment and passing time. Yet others that are on there, they just came with the phone. You don't use them, you don't know what they are. Let's look at the ones you do use. How many are business apps? How many are entertainment? Now, which of those two has the greatest number? Okay, let's take a look at your television. Now, most of y'all today, you either watch like recorded TV or you have some sort of a on-demand streaming service or something. You control what and when you watch these programs. Imagine having that 40 years ago, but today you control what and when you watch which programs. Now, how many of those programs are related to the industry you're in? How many offer some sort of a benefit or knowledge you can leverage in your business? Now, how many of them are for entertainment? Programs you've convinced yourself, you can come down from a long day's work and relax and enjoy or whatever. So you record hours and hours of this and then binge watch it later on. Okay, you see a pattern kind of emerging here. I mean, let's look at your book collection, be it print or digital, however you get your books, doesn't really matter. But apply which ones are for the development of your business and which ones are really just for entertainment. How many novels versus motivation or industry specific periodicals or something? And more importantly, how often do you read? You see, if you find yourself feeling like you could do more sometimes, or you can be better, and you start to get down on yourself, or tip to the entertainment side, ask yourself, have I created an environment conducive to winning? When was the last time I deliberately removed a distraction, opted out of a social function, or invested in making my environment a space where I can be more productive? This is a very crucial step. I mean, in this process, this is probably I would call this the slab. You know, it's a very crucial step in this process. In fact, a good friend of mine is a retired NFL player, but back when he played, during the time he played, we had a conversation about what he called the second mile. You see, he and one of his teammates, they would go to practice, and after practice, they would go and have an additional workout in the sauna. Then he would get home, after going to practice, after doing the additional workout in the sauna, he would come home and jump ropes for additional 30 minutes when he got home. Now, this is a pro who's got a starting job. I mean, he clearly had enough talent, done enough work, and was conditioned enough to be there. So why would he go through this much trouble? Because he was conditioning himself to be better than who he would have to defend. The sauna, it was to be conditioned for those heated games. You ever seen an athlete pass out or cramp up from heat cramps or dehydration? You know, there's conditioning involved in that. The jump rope, well, guess who's got more to pull from in overtime because they've conditioned themselves way past the required playing time on the clock. So they have much more to pull from. Refer to this as the second mile where there was little traffic because most just don't want to travel that far. So one time it was the off season. A few of us are out just being the young men we were, and having a good time. I mean, what else do you do when you have lots of time, lots of money, and you're in your 20s? You have some. So we're all out. We're going to eat, and now this guy, 6'5", 260 pounds, and he orders a salad. And the guys, we are out with, they're poking fun at him and everything, but I really respected his mind. Always wondered how he thought. So later on, I asked him, what was up with this delicate meal choice? What was this all about? And he says, I'm gonna be stronger and faster this coming season. Now, what's kind of crazy about this is it's immediately after, the playoff season. I mean, it's March and we're in New Orleans. And, if you're ever in New Orleans in March, let me tell you, it's the time for, back-to-back festivals. I mean, it's just good time central, and I'm like, hey, man, you have plenty of time before the preseason, let's get it in. And he tells me, you don't get bigger, stronger, and faster during the season. He says, what you accomplish in the off season is what you have to pull from. Wow. Take a moment and think about your business. Think about your life. When your season, will you be ready? Will you have done what it takes in the off season to be prepared for success? I'm a boxing fan, and I also love the old Rocky movies. My favorites of the Rocky series has to be part 3 and part 4. There's so many success messages in those two in particular. Remember part 3 when Rocky was on top of the world? He was being with a statue and everything, and what should have been one of the most special moments of his life, it all went to hell. He was not conditioned for being called out in a public forum. Clubber Lang, he was hungry. He had nothing to lose. So before this champion could, gracefully retire, Clubber Lang got in his mind and in an environment he didn't control and took him off his game. And the result was Rocky accepted this challenge. Okay, well, now it's time for training. And if you haven't watched Rocky 3, it's probably my single most favorite. You got to go and watch this. But, he goes, it's time for training. And, Rocky's rich. He's on top of the world and he wants to retire in style. He's all about a good time, right? He never considered the possibility he might lose. Do you remember the environment he trained in? Who remembers? Right, right. He rents out this lavish hotel. There's press and girls and distractions everywhere. He barely breaks a sweat during his entire training. Meanwhile, Clubber Lang wants everything Rocky has. The thing that the movie really doesn't illustrate, though, is like, see, Clubber Lang respected Rocky. He respected his heart. He respected his skill, but he respected enough to train harder than he had. This guy was laser focused. Well, we know what happened next. He knocked Rocky on his ass. I mean, yeah, he had some distractions with his trainers, the heart attack and all of that, but ultimately he failed. He failed to control his environment. He failed to go the second mile. He failed to condition himself. He failed. to commit. I mean, at least to success, that is. Remember, Les Miles says commitment shows up in your life. Well, clearly, the champion was committed to retirement. And here's what's really crazy: the guy responsible for helping him get back, Apollo Creed, he makes the same mistakes in part four: lack of discipline, failure to commit. I mean, did you see the environment that Rocky trained in when he went to Russia? It's a far cry from that glamorous hotel, right? I mean, he had nothing to focus on but avenging his friend's debt with a victory. And that commitment showed up. You see, like I said earlier, commitment is not a simple decision about the end result. Commitment is a series of consistent action, void of options, designed to produce specific results. When you've done all you can do, God, the universe, and everything in it, oh, you gonna get tired, and that's okay. That's when you have to remember why you started. You see, you cannot afford to stress out worrying about what you want to do, what you can't do, what you don't have the resources for. Do all you can do, and by the time you're done with that, something else will be available. And I promise you, if you know all you can. You may have done all you know, you may have done all that's comfortable, but there's more that you can do. And when you do, when you actions, you will succeed. Now, you can't achieve any of this with a weak mind, though. That muscle has to be strong enough to work through the self doubt, the seemingly insurmountable obstacles, the frustration, the weight of responsibility. So, how do you do it? How do you condition your mind to get to this level of strength? Commit to controlling your environment. This means controlling what the mind consumes, like an athlete would control his diet. You have to eat that salad in the off season to get faster. Steak is not an option. That means the book, app, or television show that will educate or benefit, not entertain, is the choice to be made, because it isn't a choice at all. That means going beyond familiar grounds. Get comfortable being uncomfortable so you can be comfortable where it's currently uncomfortable. That way, you're not called out and not know how to respond. You're conditioned to work in knowledge that someone is coming for you and they are hungrier. So, depression is not an option. Frustration is not an option. Failure is not an option. You're conditioned for success. Tune in next time for episode number 2 in our Boss Motivation. Subscribe to Boss Talk Radio, and we look forward to keeping you guys happy, healthy, and self actualized. This is George Dandridge.